Welcome to Let's Take Another Look. According to the phenomenal and erudite publication known as Urban Dictionary, the term dog mom has two primary meanings. The first refers to a woman who has a dog and treats their furry baby as if it were their human child. Or it's a term used in online dating profiles to signal a woman's decision to never have kids. What the heck? I do not understand why this is a thing, but to spare you guys, I spent about 45 minutes, which is a god-awful long time on the internet, plunging into the black hole of dog mom culture. And I'll tell you, it's a terribly loathsome and frightening place. I expect that I will have nightmares about this research for the next 4 or 5 years at least, on the conservative end of things. But before we go into some of the rather interesting things that I found on the internet, including a number of quotes and definitions that drive me to, what do they drive me to do? Yeah, I can't think of it. We will examine these definitions that Urban Dictionary has given us. So I think the latter is a little more interesting just because I find it curious that in the very anti-human age in which we currently reside, that there needs to be a code phrase for that would indicate a woman's unwillingness to have a family. I say have a family because I am utterly unwilling, and I think anyone who has any common sense or intelligence at all will recognize that having pets unequivocally does not count as having a family. A family has to occur, it has to have its origins in marriage. The way that plays out is completely different, or is a different story that we can discuss at some other point, but that has to be the origin point for a family. So buying pets doesn't fall into this category, even if it's a husband and wife who buy 15 dogs. That doesn't count as the origins for a family. It has to be within the human race for it to be a family. So it's rather interesting to me, like I said, that people feel the need to kind of hide their unwillingness to participate in the traditional models of being. But maybe that's a hopeful thing. Maybe it's good that it's not yet, our culture is not yet so degraded that people can just, as a rule, jump out and say they despise the idea of a family and children, which is interesting. With regard to the first definition, though, a woman who has a dog and treats the furry baby as if it were their human child, that this is even a concept that is acceptable to vocalize with a degree of seriousness within our culture is a rather significant problem. Primarily, well, not primarily actually, but initially, just because there's a rather significant species barrier. As anyone who studied biology is acutely aware, there can be very, very close genetic lineages that are only mildly varied from one another that cannot interbreed, right? So the idea that a hominid would look at a canine from an evolutionary metaphysic anyway and say, ah yes, behold my child, is gross. And even if you're a materialist, it doesn't make any sense. If you are not an atheistic materialist, if you are, for instance, as I am, a traditionally minded Christian, you look at that and say, this is exceptionally disordered. This is not the way that humans, as the image bearers of God, ought to interact with the world. We do not claim familial relationship with other portions of creation. We claim the lordship and mastery of it within the proper Christian mindset. So, and I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but solid work to Urban Dictionary for providing some food for thought. Now we're going to shift to some of the dark recesses of the internet that my research took me. One of them is a rather loathsome website called puptrait.com. I will put all of these websites in the description for the video, so if you really want to tear your hair out and end up like me and be bald, go ahead and follow those links. So the definition of dog mom that they give on this loathsome website is an informal and affectionate term for a dog lover that identifies as female and believes that her pets are fur kids. While some dog owners may never think of their dogs as children, dog moms are an entirely different breed. Dog moms don't just live with a dog, they think of their dogs as members of their immediate cross-species family, nurturing their fur babies like they are human crotch goblins. Dog mom synonyms. Crazy dog lady, seems apt. Fur mama. Pack parent. Queen of thumbs. Pupper parent. Head of the howlhold. Matron of mutts. Litter lady. The mother of dogons. Huh. You know, I preferred Urban Dictionary, actually. I hadn't initially read this portion of the article, and kind of glad I didn't. But now I have to live with having read this. But I can't be shocked that someone who is so ignorant as to start off their description of a dog mom by saying someone who identifies as female. I mean, whenever I read that sentence, I can be reasonably certain that what follows is going to be absurdity of the highest caliber, and the person will have no bloody idea what they're talking about after that. On a slight aside, it's one of the litmus tests that I use whilst debating or having conversations with people on difficult topics. The line of commentary will be something to the effect of, if you cannot tell me with which gender a penis is associated, you are not qualified to have a discussion on any other topic. This is a pretty basic and easy thing to resolve. And then there's the term referring to children as crotch goblins. I cannot express in any civilized parlance how much I hate that phrase. It's disgusting and is intended to dehumanize, which again, I can't be surprised that people who refer to dogs as their children, I can't be shocked that those kinds of individuals are obsessed with dehumanizing other people. So the article is titled, then, after that horrifying intro, 21 signs you might be a dog mom or dad. We're not going to go through every single one of these. There were a few that I saw that really were quite insane, so we'll look at those. The first one is actually a lot crazier than one might initially think. But it says, your parents refer to your dog as their grandchild. Even if you say this only jokingly, odds are you're probably a dog mom. Double points if you do this even though you also have human children. I hadn't also read the subtext on that, which is my fault, so that's disagreeable. The rather obvious issue here is, if your parents do this, your problems are probably far deeper seated than just a gnawing desire to feel like someone loves you, because we live in an individualistic and isolated society that despises the idea of proper human relationship. So you probably were raised in a household that was extremely disordered, if this is a thing that occurs. And again, if your parents call your children, or call your dog, rather, a grandchild, despite the fact that they actually have legitimate grandchildren, that's just a horrifically dehumanizing and loathsome thing to do. Dogs are not people. There's a reason why seeing a dead dog on the side of the road is not the same as seeing a dead body on the side of the road, seeing a human who's been killed or has died. I have seen and participated in the killing of many animals, most often to eat, but sometimes because they were dangerous or pests. And I have also seen a lot of people die. There's a pretty bloody big difference between the two things, a bloody huge difference. Let me see. Moving on to slightly less disagreeable things. Number 7. You have other children, but the dog is your favorite. If your dog is secretly or not so secretly your favorite, you're probably a dog mom. So this goes back to number 1. Your parents were probably kind of like this if you have grown up to think that dogs are your children, the dogs that you bought from the pound or from a breeder are your children. Also, this touches into a rather curious thing. If you think that dogs are better than people or equivalent to people, at least, I'll give a little bit of charity here. Why on earth would you breed them and buy and sell their children, their puppies? Isn't that kind of like a weird form of slavery? Like, that's pretty screwed up if you actually think these things, but you still do this. That's super screwed up and indicates that you are, one, a very poor thinker, and if you aren't a poor thinker and you still do that, you are within your own system a moral monstrosity. But that's not the case as far as I'm concerned. It's perfectly agreeable to do that kind of thing. Sell dogs anyway. But yeah, seriously, you think your dog is at least equivalent or better than your children. That's horrible. You need to get rid of your dog if you think this. You need to get rid of your dog and do some soul searching and try to learn what it is to be a human again, because you've degraded yourself to the level of an animal if you think this way. Let me see. So this one's actually not so crazy, just because we as people tend to do this, but number 12. You have conversations with your dog. If you talk to your dog like they understand you, you're probably a crazy dog lady and a dog mom. That said, if you talk to your dog and they just talk back, you might just be crazy and a dog mom. Well, if your dog talks back to you, there's 3 scenarios. 1, you're definitely crazy if that happens. 2, you live in Narnia and some animals talk to you there, which, if that happens, that's weird, but whatever. 3, you're trying to do something as a representative of God that he really, really, really doesn't want you to do, and the dog is trying to keep you from being killed because the dog isn't as stupid as you are. If that is the case, see the story of Balaam and his donkey, or his ass, as when I was a child we thought was hilarious to say. So yeah, that one's not quite as insane. Plus, I think, at least in the modern West, we all kind of do that with inanimate objects. I recall a story a number of years ago where a friend of mine said that he wanted to work on a vehicle with me, because he'd never really worked on cars, and he goes, oh yeah, you know how to work on cars, so I'd like to work on a car with you. And having spent a lot of time working on cars, my response was, no you don't. And he didn't believe me, wanted to work on cars with me, so we spent a couple hours working on a vehicle of mine. And he ended up going inside about 45 minutes before I did. And then I went in for a beer because I'd had a really frustrating, awful time, as one might expect when you work on a car. And when I walk inside, my friend says to me something to the effect of, I've never heard somebody swear at a vehicle that much. So, we have interactions, verbal altercations with inanimate objects. So doing it with animate objects in the West seems a little less strange to me. I'm not going to say it's a good habit. It's bad, especially if what that turns into is you just screaming all kinds of profanity and threats at an inanimate object or an animal. There are deeper rooted psychological and spiritual issues that need to be resolved there, but That's a little less insane than some of the ones here. Um, okay, so 15 and 16 are seriously related. So I'll just read them both at the same time. You dress your dog up in costumes. Most dog owners have at least one costume for their dog, but if you have multiple costumes or regularly dress your dog up to celebrate holidays like Halloween, St. Patrick's Day, or Christmas, you're probably a dog mom. And your dog has a stroller. Your idea of taking your dog for a walk involves pushing them around in a baby carriage or carrying them in a bag or purse. If you do so, you're probably a dog mom. Whale? I've never understood why people dress their dogs up. It's just, like, it's one thing if a kid does it, because they're treating the dog kind of like a doll. And, I mean, they do that with their siblings, so that makes sense. I mean, when I was a kid, we did that with some of our dogs when my brother and sister and I were really young. But, if you're an adult and you're doing this to your dog, treating it like a baby, that's really disconcerting. You shouldn't treat a dog like a baby. A dog is an animal. If you die and your dog is loose in the house, your dog is going to eat you. Like, that's happened multiple times, and you can search the news for that, news sites for that. That's happened. Dogs do not feel about you the way that we feel about dogs, because dogs are significantly less disordered, honestly speaking. That's not to say that dogs are stupid. Dogs are smart, but they're not people. Don't treat them like people. And if you push your dog around in a stroller, and this is something that really irritates me, I've seen people do this, and it's, I look at people who dress their dogs up, and I just think to myself, you're kind of a weird, eccentric individual. If I see somebody pushing a dog around in a stroller, and it's usually like a tiny dog that you could put in your back pocket, right? It's, I don't even have the words to describe the loathing and contempt that arouses in me. It's so bizarre. Um, yeah, it's just, yeah. I have nothing to say that doesn't involve conversation. It doesn't involve these same kinds of things I would say to a vehicle that I was working on. So I'm not gonna continue. Um, oh dear, I hadn't seen this. So 21, and then there's like a postscript that I'll read. You want to be one. If you're committed to nurturing your dog, feel like your favorite furball is a member of your family, and identify as female, guess what? You're a dog mom. No, you're insane. You have a deeply rooted psychological and spiritual disorder, probably actually a deeply rooted spiritual disorder. And I would be willing to bet that a lot of this happens because a lot of this happens with women who have only ever had or primarily had dysfunctional romantic relationships or dysfunctional familial relationships in the parent-child context, and have never fulfilled their deeply rooted desire to have a family, have children, and have only one, as as the common parlance is, to have a one romantic partner, or as we would say in a saner world, one husband or one lover. I'd be willing to bet that's the case. That's just, and it really is sad. It's quite terrifying, and it's very sad. And then this thing says, don't forget dog moms on Mother's Day. 2019 Mother's Day is Sunday, May 12th. If your mom is a dog mom, or if you simply want to celebrate your own relationship with your fur baby, be sure to check out our dog blog's guide to Mother's Day gifts for dog moms. So if you have a mother, if you exist, we'll put it this way, if you are watching this, if you exist, you have a mother. Um, So why would you supplant yourself with her dog? It's weird. Doesn't make any sense to me, guys. Doesn't make any sense. And also, this whole thing just strikes me as catastrophically narcissistic. If you simply want to celebrate your own relationship with your fur baby, you're a bloody narcissist. You're not a mother if you have a dog and that's all you have. If you've never had a child, you're not a mom. That's just the way it is. The closest you can come to that is in the Orthodox and Catholic, and I think Lutherans still do this, but I'm not sure. If you are a godparent, so I'm a godfather, right? I don't have a wife, don't have children, but I'm a godfather, which means I have two spiritual sons, which means to a degree I receive in the Orthodox Church a little bit of recognition on Father's Day, because taking on godchildren is considered a big deal, but they're people, they're humans, they're human males, they're little men. They're not some wretched little beast that is the result of generations of genetic manipulation to create some sort of evolutionary dysfunctional creature. So, oh man, that was terrible. The next ones are worse though. So this one is from Southern Living, which was a publication that I, up until recently, well, I won't say recently, but that I've never had any ill will towards until I saw this. And again, I'm going to read the intro, and this is called 30 Dog Mom Quotes That Will Give You All the Warm and Fuzzies. Just the linguistic complexity here is deplorable. If you own a dog, you know one of the greatest loves in the world. Really? Dog moms take their jobs very seriously, and these quotes will remind you of why. If you're looking for the perfect Instagram caption for a photo of you and your pup, let these adorable dog mom quotes be your guide. Now, or new to the dog mom game, these quotes will inspire you. Send a fellow dog mom one of these cute quotes to brighten their day. Authors, actors, and a couple of unknown geniuses have summed up all our feelings with these dog mom quotes. From funny to sweet, these dog mom quotes will make you so thankful you are one. If you can identify with the saying, I take insults to my dog more personally than insults to myself, you've come to the right place. Okay. If you have a dog, you know one of the greatest loves in the world. Really? Spoken as someone who obviously has never had a romantic attachment or a child. A real child, not, again, some mangy cur you picked up from the reservation. Oy vey. Unknown geniuses as well. Great turn of phrase there. Yeah, these people who had this... Yeah, these people are not geniuses. If this is what genius is, our society deserves to burn. Okay. Again, I'm not going to read all of these. But we'll see. So, Nora Roberts said something to the effect of, everything I know I learned from dogs. Well, that must not be very much. Unless it's eating your own vomit and crapping on the floor. Anne Raver from the New York Times. To sit with a dog on a hillside in a glorious afternoon is to be back in Eden, where doing nothing was not boring, it was peace. You know, Drew Clavin of the Daily Wire, and otherwise famed screenwriter and mystery author, has made the observation that the New York Times is a former newspaper. If this is the kind of thing they have coming out of their contributors, I can agree with that. A little bit of hyperbole is necessary in writing. At least that's what I found. But to compare sitting by a dog to being in Eden is it's a complete misunderstanding of what Eden is and was and what it was supposed to be. Perhaps we will talk about that at a different point in time, but that is certainly not the work of a genius. That is the work of an ignoramus. Let's see. Some of these we've already kind of covered. If you don't own a dog, at least one, there's not necessarily anything wrong with you, but there may be something wrong with your life. Why? I have owned dogs. I like owning dogs. If I had never owned one, there would be nothing wrong with my life. It's not a prerequisite to live a good life to own a dog. It just isn't. And again, that's not to say that I don't dislike dogs. One of the dogs we had when I was a kid was a yellow lab. Loved that dog. She was a great dog. But my life would have been a little less interesting. I'd have a few less stories. And, it wouldn't have, like, looking back on it as it having been an event in which that occurred in my life, like, yeah, it would have been weird to not have that, to know that something was taken out. But if we'd never had that dog, I wouldn't have lost anything because I wouldn't have possessed anything to begin with there, as far as that's concerned. Let's see. So from Anonymous, the more I know men, the better I like dogs. Is that because people are capable of discriminating whether or not you're a good or bad person, I wonder? Because that seems to me to be one of the themes here, is people like dogs because they think people are awful. But they have yet to ask the question that, is it maybe that you're a disagreeable person to be around that causes other people that provokes rather other people to say things that make your tummy hurt? Let's see. Another unknown. You can get true love from some humans and all dogs. There's nothing equivalent about the way that a dog, when a dog likes you and wants to be around you, there's such a vast chasm there between that kind of affection and human affection. A person can love you despite your foibles. A dog doesn't really have a choice in the matter. Like, what the heck? This one is interesting. Maurice Maeterlinck. We are alone, absolutely alone on this chance planet, and amid all the forms of life that surround us, not one excepting the dog has made an alliance with us. No, that's not true. Captivity precludes the idea of an alliance. There's a very famous Russian experiment in the 80s or 90s where they bred generations of foxes selecting for friendliness, and they got what we would recognize as dogs within like 10 or 12 generations. That's not an alliance. That is genetic manipulation. And if we're going to again take the notion for a moment that dogs and people are roughly equivalent, that's slavery. But again, that's a ridiculous claim. Let me see. Oh, this is going to be fun. From John Holmes, whoever that is. A dog is not almost human, and I know of no greater insult to the canine race than to describe it as such. Why? Why? Dogs do not compose music. Dogs do not build civilizations. Dogs do not raise their own families. Right? They will rear pups to a particular age, and then what we would classify as incest occurs. Or vice versa. That dogs are so obviously inferior to us by any metric. Loyalty, we say, dogs are loyal to me, they love me despite my faults, they're always loyal to me. How is that a resounding, how is that a good thing? How? Loyalty to someone who has a horribly flawed and evil character? That's not good. That's not virtuous, that's bad. Someone who is loyal to an evil man is by association an evil man. Lack of discernment and blind loyalty is considered to be bad by anyone with half a bloody brain. Let's see. What do we have here? Okay, from Jerome on Cats and Dogs, whoever this guy is, whatever this work is. They never talk about themselves, but listen to you while you talk about yourself and keep up an appearance of being interested in the conversation. Okay, obviously spoken by someone who's never interacted with a cat. But 2, lack of ability to do otherwise does not equal virtue, like what I said last time. A dog can't talk about itself, doesn't have the capacity of even considering what that would mean. That's a meaningless statement. You know, if gravity didn't work, then objects wouldn't fall to the ground. Well, that's completely irrelevant because that's not the way things work. Let me see. By unknown. Whoever said that diamonds are a girl's best friend never had a dog. Again, this just... I think it's interesting that what I consider to be the most egregious quotes in here are all by unknown speakers or authors. I would be ashamed to be associated with any quote that ignorant. But, you know, I'm certainly not going to say that diamonds are a girl's best friend, but I'm certainly not going to say that dogs are a girl's best friend either. That's, again, spoken by someone who I'd be willing to bet has, for whatever reason, never had a meaningful relationship at all in their life, which is sad. Okay, enough of the quotes. I think that's all I can bear, quote-wise. I did want to talk about another website for a minute called Dog Mom Lifestyles. And the mission is to help women create a monthly ritual to de-stress, rejuvenate, and nurture self-love with their pup. That's drivel. That's complete drivel. So, wow. There's a quote from here I wanted to read. So here are the 3 tiers of subscriptions that they have. At $20 a month, $20 a month. So you could spend $20 on a lot of different things, but this is what some people do apparently. The Trendy Dog Mom T-shirt Club, or for $60 a month, a monthly VIP Ultimate Dog Mom Box Plus T-shirt Club, or at a more reasonable $44.99, the monthly Ultimate Dog Mom Box. And in their What People Are Saying section from a grandmother, which makes this even sadder. Just working nights and raising 4 grandbabies takes a lot of my time. Literally hiding in my room with Bug, opening your boxes are our secret guilty pleasure. Thank you for what joy you give us without even knowing it. How pitiful. When this grandmother is even older, her dog will not take care of her when she's in her dotage. Her dog won't care. Her dog probably won't be alive. And if her dog is alive, her dog is not going to care at all. And it won't do anything to support her. how pitiful, how sad that this is a society that thinks this kind of behavior is okay. But in one of their, I made a comment earlier saying something to the effect of, this is a lot of this is based in narcissism. So let me see if I can find the section. Where was it? Let me see. May monthly ritual empowered and inspiring greatness. Yeah, this is the one. So one of the things included in this dog mom membership club garbage is a uplifting words of wisdom box. Imagine it's a beautiful sunny morning and you're about to start your day. Use this beautifully crafted frame filled with inspiring messages and phrases that are sure to uplift you with the day ahead. For the day ahead. Comes in a wooden keepsake box. There are 80 themed phrases to choose from, 40 double-sided pages. Create an inspiring display and enjoy the gentle, empowering messages given. We believe in finding ways each day to help you start your day right, as well as put yourself in a positive mindset. What other ways do you help boost your day in a positive direction with your dog? And here's the picture they've got. It's this garbage-looking card. Right, and again, I'll link to this as well in the comments. Make yourself a priority. What the heck do you think you're doing if you own a dog, tell yourself that it's your child, and spend 60 freaking bucks a month buying this kind of trite garbage? You're a bloody narcissist. Of course you're making yourself a priority. That's why your life's going to hell. Oy vey. So I know this has been a lot longer than I was planning on going already, but here's the problem, right? There's some truth to the sentiment that that this whole dog mom movement is touching on, and that is the idea that people are meant for relationships, right? We are meant for community. We're meant for family. When you deny that, you're going to fill it somehow. And it can be like being in a gang, engaging in, the horrific atrocity that is hookup culture, or in anthropomorphizing a dog, or a rat, or a cat, or lizards, or cows, or whatever bloody animal you want. Animals are not capable of interacting with you, with people, in the same way that people interact with one another. Now that does mean that humans can be far crueler to one another than animals are to people or to each other, right? But just because there's a capacity for cruelty and evil doesn't mean that you're justified in pretending like you are not a human, like you are not a man or a woman. If you're a woman and you have this maternal instinct to nurture, get married and have kids. If you have dogs and kids, and you treat the dogs like they're more important than your kids, or your dogs are your favorites, as opposed to your kids, get rid of your dogs, repent, and reform your life and to teach your children how to be good men and women, right? And I'd go forward, and this is kind of an indictment of myself as well. So I'll end with this anecdote. A number of years ago, a group of my friends that I'm still very close with, made a Tinder profile for me. This was before it was exclusively a hookup thing. And what would occur is when we'd go hang out, one of them would open up the app, and they wouldn't show me anything, but they would sit there and they would go through people and just read descriptions to me to see what my reactions were. And they quickly learned that the fastest way to make me lose my temper, or abandon my temper, I'll say, and say all manner of unkind things about the person involved, was if in the description the person would say something like, "I'm a dog mom," or I've got 3 furry babies or whatever. That was an error on my part, I think, not with regard to the specifics of me having my friends do particular things with a dating app, but with a dating app, it was a problem because I am I was not making myself or allowing myself to be someone who would at least theoretically be able to help people get out of this mindset. Like I said, it's a wicked mindset. It's terrible. It's dehumanizing. But when someone falls into such delusion, the best practice is to save them from the delusion. Now, that doesn't mean there's a crazy dog mom out there somewhere, dog mom. I obviously say this ironically. If they're out there and they're unwilling to attempt to reform their lives, I'm not saying that go date them or go marry them or treat them like they're doing a good thing, because they're not. But I'm also not saying that a chance ought not be given. But I've gone too far, I think. I believe our next episode will probably be on it'll either be a brief assessment of modern takes on the witch hunts, or it will be about the Galileo affair. Cheers, God bless, and I'll see you guys next week.